Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Media Cocktail Podcast, Episode 2. I am your host, not Brandon, or otherwise known as Brendan. I am joined by my friends, script editor for the Not Brandon YouTube channel, Mike. How's it going?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Media Podcast. It is I, the editor, and also your bartender for tonight. Does that sound weird? I think that sounds kind of weird.
That was close to that guy from Bayonetta. What's that guy's name?
Oh, the black guy?
Yeah.
Oh, your weaponsmith
dude, yeah.
Seller.
Hello, Bayonetta. I can't do that.
Okay, now, whenever Mike used that voice, you gotta get that guy from Bayonetta.
No, that'll be his profile picture this time. And it won't be explained until this moment, so some people are looking at it like, oh. I don't know. I want to set the precedent that our profile pictures change per episode.
Oh, no, I'm 100% going to do that.
Yeah.
Right. With or without your consent.
Well, it requires somewhat of my consent, because I have to put it in there.
Alright, sorry about that. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, hello, everyone. I am Michael, also sometimes known as Smashbox, but most of the time not. To let you guys know, in case for you, those who are wondering, I am drinking a Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA. New Belgium, by the way.
Nice. I'm also joined by former YouTuber extraordinaire, now streamer on the rise, about to debate Destiny. To get it to face him. Just take him down a peg. Will.
Yeah, I'm gonna look like a jackass on the internet. That's a fun story.
Isn't that just this?
Right, but Destiny, I suppose, is a professional debater, so he knows how to finagle his way around words. I do not. You see how clumsy I am when speaking. Hello, everybody. How's it going here?
How's it going? I gotta cut that clip in there.
I mean, doing all right. Like Brendan said, been streaming. I've been streaming regularly now, which I'm kind of proud of. Do something consistent besides the podcast.
Yeah.
Been playing Devil May Cry, the original one on HD. So come join the fun, guys. I'm playing on Dante Must Die mode.
And also, as of yet, you still haven't told your followers about it. So, I'm at least in my book, I'm going to consider you a traitor.
I mean, fair enough.
I mean, I'm always fair. I'm actually too fair most of the time.
You use a lot of logic there, Mike, so I can't argue with that.
Nothing I'd like to do more than debating.
And so how have you been, Brendan? You're the only one that actually does stuff on YouTube.
I'm working on a series of videos that are coming out, hopefully starting this month. Mike and I have a couple projects in the works, one of which has already been announced. I have the Rome Total War video that I've been working on for a long time. That should be out probably by March. It's going to be pretty lengthy, so you'll understand why that took so long when that comes out. We'll see what happens with that. And then there's a couple other videos coming out. There will be content soon enough outside of just the podcast here. And then, of course, I also stream at twitch.tv/Hawkeye726. I stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Maybe once on occasion for the weekends or whatever.
Someone help. Yeah.
Someone help.
Someone please help me, especially. How do you think How do you think I have so much time to edit his strips? He's got me locked up. Please send help.
Yeah.
Send help. Blink twice.
And that's like the moment where you cut my audio, right?
Just silence the audio.
See, I thought I came here of my own volition, but really I am trapped in a different sense.
No, so what actually happened, if you follow the stream canon of mine, you'll actually know what happened, which is that I have cloned. The coronavirus actually creates life as much as it destroys it. So with the coronavirus, I have been able to clone Michael and Will, and they are now servants to the podcast. There's another set of clones. One streams. The actual Will died ages ago. I don't know.
Oh, he died back in high school, I believe.
Something like that. Yeah, he died in some 3D animation closet or something. He might have been locked up. I don't know.
No, he got dragged into the closet after he died.
That is the most inside of jokes. My God. No one know what we were talking about.
Now, all of a sudden, we're going to be creating media cocktail lore to be fucking tracked for everyone. So alright, who's what? What version of Michael is this? Is this Michael version 565 or is it 362?
Who knows? Nobody knows. Only Ada Wong knows.
Only Ada Wong.
If anything, this has to be top secret, so...
No wonder Leon's confused. Anyway, Michael, how was your week?
Even the audience is confused.
It's been pretty good. I've been reading some. I'm almost done with Strangers in a Strange Land. I only got like less than 100 pages left to go. But which, speaking of, have you been keeping up with? Because Will and I, for those who don't know, him and I are in a similar book club. So, have you been continuing to read Strangers in a Strange Land?
I still have like about 100 pages to go.
All right,
but I do plan on reading like some point later tonight.
All right, so you are at about the same part as me. Kind of weird. Part 4 is my least favorite part because it's just a big old sex cult now.
Okay, haven't gone quite that far yet. I am at the part where he's still trying to like. Actually, no, I think he has been. It is beginning weird though. Like just.
Yeah. So. Spoilers for this like 6-year-old ass book. Basically, it's about the Martian man named Valentine Smith. Basically, has like godlike powers. Finally, understands humans and decides like the best way to give happiness to all is to just have everyone fuck each other in a big old sex cult. Canon, by the way. If you're like 100 pages away from the book, you should know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, no, it is just weird. Because I remember, like, he was making the whole big spiel about how, like, every religion is potentially right.
Yeah. And it's just adding that, like, closeness together type of deal.
Yeah. Like, there's a lot of it, out of context, yeah, it's entirely weird, but, like, reading it, you kind of, there is, like, a gradual thought process.
It's just way too much for me. Like, to the point where it's just genuinely, like, uncomfortable. Because it's kind of, like, similar to, like, in Wizard's First Rule. There's, like, and once again, another spoiler. In that book, there is a long torture scene that I personally do not like, because mainly because it just goes way too long. Like, it's, like, 150 pages of just like, torture. And I'm just... it just kind of got a little redundant to me, even with like its part in the narrative, and like just for like this entire thing like this this sex cult, still way too much for me. And and it's showing that the two characters in Stranger's Strange Place that have like what I would consider like the moral authority, which is like Valentine Smith in part 2. And just Jabal Harshaw, which during like the entire book, those two are like, no, he's right. He's not only ethical, but he's moral, and he's right. And all of you guys who don't think that sex is like the right way are just prejudice. And I'm just like, nah, because it feels like, you know, like those. It's like sometimes when you're like reading or like going through a movie, you have to like make the distinction of like, okay, what does this character think, and what is the author like trying to like push? And I feel as though that like with like the sex stuff, it's like something that the author is trying to push and show like as like the right thing.
I feel like that's just kind of a thing. I kind of get that feeling a lot when it comes to main characters in media as a whole. Like a lot of the times, the side characters would just be like, "Yeah, no, he's completely right. We can't argue with him."
No, it's not the point of like like the main characters like doing. It's something that's like just so like I would guess you could say like taboo, and just having everyone just like being like, no, he's right, he's ethical.
Well, I think that's the whole point. Like it's taking something that a lot of people do consider taboo and unethical, especially like out in the open, and being like, listen, it's just sex. Like, why are we making such a big deal out of it?
Well, it's because I genuinely do not believe that's like, because they're like presenting it's like, oh yeah, it's like the thing that will like solve all the world's problems and make everyone just happy and well together. It's just if everyone doesn't have jealousy, which is an innately human trait, just like which is like just part of like, it is just part of like most people, not all. There are some people that are different, but it's like no, everyone needs to be able to just fuck each other, and that's just how we're gonna get to world peace. And it's just like nah, and almost like showing it as like a thing for like like basically universal happiness.
I mean, that's why we all fight wars and stuff, just to please the opposite sex, right?
Just for sex? No.
It's for oil.
Yeah, that's just like to fuck the oil.
You can buy anything for the right oil.
But that's just like my opinion. I really do not like the second part of the book. First part, if it like ended by the end of chapter 2, like as like a very interesting like political drama. Okay, that was like a little premature, but that was but you know what? I would still give it like an 8, 9 out of 10. But I would consider like this entire thing like the second part a 3 out of 10. So together, like everything put together, it is 5 out of 10.
I still got like 100 pages left to read, so I'm gonna save my like overall thoughts until I actually finish the book.
I'm like I said 100 pages, but now that I think about it, it's more like 50, I think. So I'm like pretty close to be done.
Nice.
And the other thing I've been doing to steer away from that, for the moment is I've been watching a little bit of The Witcher. Still not done with it. I watched like about half of it a year ago or something like that, and I was like, you know what? I'm starting getting like my Netflix kick back again. I'm gonna go watch some Witcher. I've only seen like 2 episodes. One of them I basically remember already. It was like the episode where that episode where it's like the Lost Surprise is brought on like that lady, and like the Witcher and like the Queen and everything are like killing a bunch of like suitors for the princess, and it turns out that the person who even brought in like the Lost Surprise was just like this like werewolf curse guy.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh man, I'm trying to remember the show.
Honestly, I haven't watched the actual like spoiler cast that we did, and it's been like a year now since I last saw this show.
Yeah, I basically remember. It's like basically it's like
I would hope so.
Yeah, all these like
you're watching it.
I forgot everything.
I think I remember the show. I don't know. I've got some serious, who knows.
The drugs really hit hard.
The alcohol is really affecting my my cerebral cortex.
Business degree, man. I only got so much space for stuff.
I only got so much space, and it's only filled with return on investment and return on equity. But it's like and it had like a really weird end too. It was like because like the princess like, no, I love this werewolf curse guy, and and like they like spun in the air with like a bunch of like swirling vortex and like light, if I remember correctly.
Wait, hold on. This was like in the castle, or it was like taking place during a dining scene, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about then. Yeah.
Yeah, and
because like that was Geralt was there because Dandelion invited him. Right?
Yeah, Dandelion. Yeah.
Okay then.
And then I watched that, and the other thing I saw was like it was like finally the meeting of Geralt of Rivia and Yennefer, and then they just like I guess boned super hard or something like that because they're like because they're like super mad. It's like, I wanted to catch the djinn, you can't handle the djinn. They just like bone.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if they were arguing, they had to bone because of that.
They had to bone.
Yeah, Geralt and Yennefer's relationship is very strange. In the books, it makes more sense because they're like tied to each other because of a curse or something.
Yeah.
Actually,
well, according to my roommates,
or is that the game? I don't know.
According to my
it's all the same
roommate,
thing.
the best way to describe their relationship is just pure out toxic. Because it was a lot like talking with like my roommate, which was like about like I never knew like about how fucking weird the lore of The Witcher actually is. If you guys like know about like the specifics of it.
Oh yeah.
About how like fairy tale like love and like magic is like an actual real construct in like The Witcher.
Yeah.
The way that they set up the universe is really weird too, because isn't it like there was nothing there originally, and then like a bunch of people were teleported there from like different universes or something? Like it's really like
I think elves were actually aliens.
Yeah, basically how it works is the convergence of spheres is there was like originally nothing, but then the convergence of like different universes came together, and a bunch of people, including just dead ass real life people from the Middle Ages in like real life Earth, the elves that were just like a bunch of like just like the most imperialistic, racist assholes in the world. Just like the word, like actually like elves are usually like, oh yes, I am a very good person and I am one with nature. But no, in this, elves are just just fucking evil. They're just like 100% evil.
I kind of like that interpretation of elves, though.
It's not a bad. I'm not saying it's a bad one. It's just like it's so like weird. The entire thing of like the convergence of the spheres.
It's kind of like if they took Tolkien's elves and just cranked up the, just crank up the racism a bit.
Yeah, there's also like an in-canon reason to have any crossover you want.
Yeah, because it's like the entire reason like why he was like like that one night guy like went in the air and like turned to a human being was because that was like the dead ass fucking the fairy tale magic at work right there. That was actually just like them being like, oh yeah, the fairy tale made this happy ending. And I don't know. I think like it's like weird, kind of like how like Warhammer lore is like weird, but it doesn't just because it's like weird does not mean it's like not interesting.
Oh yeah, I love the Witcher universe. Like I've always been like fascinated by this stuff, especially since playing Witcher 3.
A lot of my fun from The Witcher 1 was less about the combat and more about just the world and like looking at all the lore, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Cause just like getting all that context, being like, how are these monsters created, or what's the best poison to use against them?
That's been like the main thing taking up my my week. It's been a pretty big busy week for me overall. I'm about to have my a really big test tomorrow, so I haven't really had much time to like do too much studying. So,
or at the time of this recording tomorrow.
But by the time the episode's out, we'd have already passed this test.
Actually, spoiler alert, future Michael, you did average.
Probably. But yeah, that's pretty much like been my week. Will, how's your week been?
I've been pretending to be a Japanese gangster over the week.
Yeah.
And then he's also playing Yakuza.
he's just been like in this like closet cosplaying like I'm a Japanese gangster.
He bought a blazer. He just sits in his closet. He's like, I'm a gangster.
He's like, my name is Kiryu
No,
Kazuma.
it's a Japanese gangster. I obviously get a kimono. No, but yes, I have been playing Yakuza 0. Because I have been very on and off with that game like for the last couple months.
Trust me, I have been trying as like so the Yakuza series like is now officially like my favorite like video game series of all time so far. It used to be the Pikmin series, but now it is Yakuza series.
Of all time so far.
Yeah, of all time so far. I can't speak for the future, man. And I've been trying to like be like, hey, Will, play 0, and he's like, maybe. But now he has finally done it.
Well, because, like, I finally unlocked the real estate business for Kiryu, and I'm like, oh my god, I can make so much money. So I spent, like, the last 20 hours just maximizing my profits that way. And in-universe, I took down the 5 billionaires in a single night. So it's like... So, like, Tachibana sends them home and be like, okay, I'll phone you to let you know of any further details. And so I'm like... I'll see if I can find some quick money. And like the same night, he's like, okay, now I can get like 1 billion yen in 5 minutes.
Yeah, the real and as I said before, because where are you now in like Yakuza 0?
I am doing the Majima's Cabaret side quest. I've so far took down the first big star, and I currently have like 3,500 fans at the moment. I've just been basically sponsoring with all the buildings around town, cause like the Cabaret Club, I do like that it's far less grindy story wise compared to Kiryu's real estate.
So you like it? Would you say you like it better than the real estate stuff?
That's the thing. I like both of them for different reasons. I like with Kiryu, I like just gradually building up all of my properties, and just to earn more money from them.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Cabaret Club, I do actually like the minigame that they provide. I do find kind of addicting, having to sort of manage your hostess. Okay, so funnily enough, I had like 80 CP when I finally unlocked the Cabaret thing. So right off the bat, I unlocked every single possible hostess available there.
Yeah.
And found a couple extras on top of that. So early on, I had no problem just... Like, I had no shortage of hostess.
Yeah.
But I do like the management aspect of it, and having a juggle. Okay, so not only do they like beauty, but they also like talkative.
Mm.
So like you had to kind of sort of keep a couple extra, or you need to have like backups throughout your hostess, you know?
Yeah, I remember just like going to like basically like monkey brain. It's like, oh, this guy no liked her. Do you like her?
I mean, granted, the smiley face, or the fact that like the what was it? When you're selecting hostess and the customer like actually shows their expression, it's just kind of like, okay, so I just gotta look for the greatest expression. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's somewhat streamlined at times, but it's just there's a lot to manage, all things considered. But I do find it a little bit weird how for Kiryu's you get so much more money by doing nothing, and then Majima's case, I am a bit early, but still, it's just like I get so little money out of it.
Yeah, it's like because for the thing about Kiryu is like you get big money for what passive time. You just like can like go do whatever. You could do sub stories. You could do the main story. You could do you could do bowling or pool or whatever, and you're still gonna make like literally billions of yen. But for Majima, I think the thing that gets me is that it's all active time. You can't just like do other things. You have to like sit there and for like 5 to 10 minutes for like one night just to get like a tenth of what Kiryu makes.
Like I wonder if fans or Game Over fans will help increase the rate of wealthy customers, and I try to have to extort them and all that.
It's mainly the what it really is like the difficulty of like the area, because like it's like the Mars area. You're just gonna get like a bunch of people who like just don't care. Like literally, one of the ways of like getting like your hostess level up is just by like literally having like one hostess like sit like on thing and just like never like help anyone, because helping someone will stop the timer temporarily to do like all the special training and everything. But just and if you do it at Mars, even if you don't just like have like one hostess say fuck you to literally everyone who comes in, you're still gonna somehow gain fans. People, I guess, like being treated like that.
I mean, how do you think the Mars business got so wealthy?
I don't know. Must have been a real piece of shit.
Like, right off the bat, though, it seemed like when I did, like, my first real assignment, or, like, tried it out, I got $11 million yen, right? And thinking about it, that's more than what Kiryu got at the start. Now, thinking about it, I don't quite remember if I got that after acquiring all the other hostess, or if that was, like, later on. But I do remember getting a chunk amount of money.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, so I think, like, ideally, you would want Kiryu's, or I think what the designers ideally wanted was that you increase your empire throughout the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you just, like, slowly start increasing your revenue after that, and because, you probably spent a lot. I'm pretty sure other players spent the money they earned also upgrading Kiryu.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, they probably by the end of the game, you finally increase all of your revenue.
Yeah.
And then for Majima's case, it's like, oh, well, because you have to be actively playing it right off the bat, you'll earn more money. You get where I'm coming at. You get where I'm coming at, right?
No.
Okay, so let me start over then, Brendan. You see, when Earth first started, it was a molten lava, right? And then the dinosaurs popped up.
No, I can't really interject into the Yakuza stuff. I've installed 7 on my PS4, and this is about as far as I've gotten.
And that's like the furthest you get from like the traditional Yakuza.
Right. So I'm definitely going to play that one. I've started 0 twice. And each time I get it to the first save checkpoint at the phone booth.
Yeah.
And then I don't come back to it. I go, oh, this is neat. I like this. This is a nice crime thing. Neat. Don't come back. That's a thing I have with almost every game, so it's not an insult to...
No.
For most games, rather. Not every game. But it's not an insult to Yakuza to say that. Like, literally, as I look at my, like, library on Steam, it's like half hour played. So this is what I do. Like, something holds my attention for about 30 minutes, and then I go, I'll come back to this at some point, and then I never do. or in some cases I do.
I would definitely say like Yakuza 7 sounds like the best pick for you. And if you were to like just like say like I don't like Yakuza 0 or 1 or any of the rest of them except like maybe 7. I would be like, you know what? That's fair, cuz honestly, I do think like for one of my picks, I if I could without breaking it for Will, I would be like, yeah, let's do like Yakuza 7 Like a Dragon. The only thing is, Will does want to go through the series in chronological order.
Right.
So I'm wanting him to like do that.
All right.
There's actually a part of me that like once I finish 0, I start streaming 2 onward, try to keep me on track.
I'm gonna play 7. There's probably no guarantee that I'm gonna beat it, but we can totally make it part of the show at some point when you guys get to that point that you want to do that.
Who knows?
Who knows? The future is open because it's not a real thing. The future is not real. There's only the present.
It is a concept.
Future is
Oh,
a
yeah,
concept.
but
Past is your memory. Yeah. There is nothing left. It's only the present.
So,
Anyway.
but when it comes to Kiryu's real estate business,
So it comes to real estate.
it's like, but I think they also anticipated possible players doing it all in one night, because once you unlock that, you also unlock, or the same night you unlock the best side business or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You also have unlocked every potential side quest, assuming for the most part, that has characters correlated to your business.
Yeah.
Correct.
Because I haven't found every one of them. In fact, one of them was tied to a side quest on Majima's side that I missed.
Okay.
But aside from that, I pretty much got practically every single advisor, manager, security, and all that.
Got it.
And it's like, okay, so basically I have a monopoly. Awesome.
I love monopolies.
I actually do enjoy exploiting in-game economies. I do that a lot in like strategy games. I don't know. I find it pretty funny.
I think the system is pretty simple. Once you, I don't know, like, there's a lot of information they give you, but actually playing it, it's like, oh wow, this is actually incredibly simple.
I just realized that the phrase in-game economy has a completely different connotation in 2021 than it did in like 2010. Like in 2010 it means, oh, I'm just getting the most amount of money out of Civ, and in 2021 it means, hey, I'm stealing Fortnite skins.
Hell yeah, bro.
Which,
Well,
you know
but,
what? That's the true Robin Hood, okay? Getting those Fortnite skins.
But yeah, Will, all that's left for you is pocket racing.
I did actually finish Pocket Racing on, actually, there is a side quest involving the kids.
Yeah.
Like, I did all the Pocket Racing for them. There was like that one mysterious character looking off in the distance. I get the feeling like there's this that quest line ends with him, but I haven't found him again, and I just haven't really gone back because I got sick of Pocket Racing after all of that.
That's fair. Pocket racing in this game can be like kind of frustrating.
Because like I not only did I have to do I did all 5 circuits to maximize the fighter's friendship. I also had to like do 2 extra races to fully maximize it. And then I did this kid side quest thinking that they're tied to him, but they weren't, so I wasted my time with them.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm done with Pocket Circuit Racing, and I'm probably not going to go back unless I decide to complete Yakuza, which I don't know if I'm ever going to do that.
Hey, I've taken up that cross. You don't need to if you don't want to.
Also, I'm surprised how often I had to disco dance. Like, cause not only did I do every single song 3 stars just to grind out CP, I also had to do, because I did that one side quest chain involving Kiryu out of curiosity, and now I'm doing the one of Majima just to unlock the hostess. And I was just like, I'm not a god at disco, but I'm like, I got way better at this minigame than I ever anticipated to be.
Yeah, remember, like I was like just watching you play at one point, virtually, of course.
You were watching me play up against Miracle Johnson.
Yeah, and you're like, and I basically say he was like, yeah, you did that, and I was like, hey, by the way, you can get like 12 to 15 completion points, just by like doing all the songs, and he was like, oh, like he sounded like a little kid at the toy shop. It was like, ooh, piece of candies.
That's what CP is. Especially once especially once the business side unlocked, and once I realized that I can unlock or upgrade my dragon style further through CP, I'm like, okay, I gotta get all that candy. But I'm grinding out completion points to further my my like fourth skill. Again, with the Cabaret Club, like when they tell you all the mechanics, it's kind of overwhelming because there's like 20 pages of information they give you. I'm like, okay, this is a little much. But then I actually play the game or the mini game, and I'm like, oh, okay. Thanks. I don't know. I have a hard time just reading instructions for games. I think I do better just playing it on its own.
Like, no, that's like its own rant.
I mean, to be fair, though, no one ever reads the instruction manuals for games anymore, so...
That's because they don't have them anymore.
I thought they just came with, like, warnings for, like...
Yeah, they don't have instruction manuals anymore. That's like an old relic. A relic that I personally miss. I wish we could bring instruction manuals back.
True.
I know no one read them, but they were, like, a cool addition if you ever did look into it.
It was the only way I could interact with the game for, like, 5 years. I had Empire Total War physically, but I couldn't play it because it required Steam. Also, it was a crap game, but I didn't know that at that point. Anyway, I had Empire Total War, and I would read its manual like all the time because there was no way I could play it without Steam. And I was like, man, Steam sucks.
Little did little Brendan know.
Well, this is like 15-year-old Brendan, 14-year-old Brendan.
Little Brendan know.
Little Brendan. Little B.
But yes, so Yakuza 0, I am really liking it so far. Only 7 chapters in, though. I don't know if that's like the halfway point.
And I'm looking forward to discussing it when you finish it.
Yeah. And like I said, potentially maybe streaming 2 at some point.
There you go. That's
Kiwami
a good thing to do outside of Kiwami 2.
Especially since Xbox Game Pass has every Yakuza game available, which kind of sucks that I had to buy the first 3.
Aren't you supposed to skip one?
No.
No?
Oh, I kept reading that people were like, oh, it sucks.
Well, in my opinion, Yakuza... Alright, hot take. Or probably not. Yakuza 3 is the worst Yakuza.
I think that's the general consensus.
Yeah, I don't think it's actually too much of a hot take. I know that there'll probably be some people like, yeah, they'll be like, oh no, it's like my favorite. How could you like diss Yakuza 3? And all I have to say is, I'm glad that you do like Yakuza 3. It is, and I do not want to discount your opinion. However, I do not like it, and a lot of people do not like it. Period.
I have no opinion. Yay.
I'll make you have an opinion.
One day I'll break you.
So how was your week, Brendan?
My week's alright. It's pretty quiet as usual. I'm playing a little bit more video games. I tried some of the demos on the Steam Game Festival they're having right now. As of recording, that is still active, but I think it actually ends on Tuesday. So I hope you got to play some of those demos. Some interesting stuff there. A lot of fun little indie games. I got to play a game. I'll start with the one that I like the most, which is Windjammers, which is like this competitive like frisbee soccer game. Like the goal is like there's like 3 different goals. Each goal is worth a set amount of points. So like there's a goal that's worth 3 points and a goal that's worth 5 points in the center. And your goal is to get the goal.
Kind of like basketball.
Yeah, it's really fast.
It's basically Pong.
It is kind of like Pong. Like you got to grab the frisbee from your opponent and then throw it back fast enough so they don't, so they're not able to score on you. And if you drop the frisbee, that's an automatic 2 points to the other team, and they win once they cross the 15-point threshold.
I've watched Brendan's stream on that, and it looked interesting, especially since like each character had like unique ways or had like special ways of throwing frisbees to throw up their opponents.
Yeah, they only had half the characters unlocked. There's 3 different maps that you could try. It was actually a very generous demo. Like, they let you play online. Like, they let you play with, like, all these different characters for as many matches as you wanted.
Oh, wow.
It kind of reminds me of, like, the Smash Brothers demo. That's like, hey, you can still play online with, like, a few of the characters and some maps.
Mm-hmm.
That's, like, I think that's, like, the probably one of the best ways to have a demo for a game that has online capabilities.
It was a fun little game, though, but I'm very worried about player numbers on launch. This is already at like 85 players just for the demo. Now, of course, this isn't launch. This is just the demo, so we'll see how that happens. But the real key factor in a multiplayer game, especially if it's fun, is how long is this going to last?
Yeah.
And that's the determining factor of whether or not someone should get into a multiplayer game. It's like, okay, I like the core game loop. How many people are playing this? And if not enough people are playing it, then like that will be how long you play it for.
Like launch numbers can be a little shaky because a lot of them can. Okay, like the most obvious question boils down to, okay, this is most likely their peak players because launch is like the most anticipated, or when a lot of people, the most amount of people who are anticipating the game purchase it and play it.
Right.
So it's like, okay, so they're peaking right now. How long is this going to last?
Mm-hmm.
And in some cases, like you have peak players and they're like doing pretty good, right? Like, I don't know, 10,000 players, like, oh, that's pretty good. Mm-hmm. But for some games where it's like 100, or just say like 100 starting people playing the game, that's not a very good sign at all. Mm-hmm. It's like, if that's their peak, I hate to see once it starts.
Right. And that's the big problem. You never know when something's going to be like a Fall Guys and just explode, but I mean, that's very rare.
That was due to like the very circumstantial.
Right. It's the same thing with Among Us. Like Among Us is out 2 years before it even became popular. So like,
yeah, you'll never know when it pops off.
Right. So I played that. I played a game called Despots. I think that's what it's called. Oh goodness. It's called Despots Game. Despots Game was a fun little dungeon crawler, like roguelike thing where you had a group of like characters and you gave them each little weapons. And all the enemies were like references to different sci-fi characters. And at first I was joking while I was streaming it. And I was like, oh, this looks like the Strider from Half-Life. Oh, this looks like this from Half-Life. And then I was like, wait, that is that. And then they...
it's a Dalek.
Right, they literally had Daleks in it from Doctor Who. Yeah, like a lot of the enemies were very heavily inspired by or sci-fi enemies in other things, which is totally fine. Like, I think they're like, I don't remember what they're called from Mass Effect, but like the big Raven ships or whatever. That was in there. So that was a very cute little demo. It had great soundtrack. I really liked the soundtrack.
Oh, yeah. The style, or the art style, I don't know, it was very stylized, I suppose. Because it was like another one of those pixelated... It kind of looked like an Atari 2600 in that case.
Yeah.
But it was still like appealing to look at, I think.
So I did a bit of that. And I've been playing some games with Will on the Twitch channel. So you can check that out at Hawkeye726, like I said before. We're playing RE6 and RE5.
I've been enjoying RE5 and RE6, Brendan and Will.
RE5 is fun.
That's a good
Do you
song.
corroborate that statement, Brendan?
I was going to let Brendan finish off with RE6.
Yeah, I RE6, I can tell where they were going with it, especially after playing 5. Because I can totally see how 5 was the design, like, evolution of RE5. Or RE6 was the design evolution of RE5. I can see how they were like streamlining things, making it more co-op oriented. I see where they were going with it, and I actually think, and this is a big speculation on my part, but I've talked about this with Will a couple of occasions. I think he agrees. It seems like RE6 was supposed to be like the big Resident Evil game. It seems like they really wanted to do like, why don't we just take everything we've learned from everything we've made so far, and just mash it into one big package. And there's 4 different campaigns. Each represents a different era of Resident Evil. So you have Leon's campaign for like the RE4, like kind of creepy stuff. You have Chris Redfield's campaign for more of the action RE5 kind of thing, and then you have I don't remember
Jake's
the names
campaign,
anymore.
which was like RE3 with the Nemesis gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
And Ada Wong.
Right, and Ada Wong is supposed to be it was a bonus campaign to tie them together.
Like, yeah, you'll take a look at it, and granted, like I'm not that familiar with Resident Evil lore and all that. I just know the general gist of most of the games. But like looking at it, it does seem like there's a lot of references if you like really look at it.
Right.
Yeah, I played Resident Evil 6 myself with my roommate, as well as Resident Evil 5, and we actually enjoyed ourselves with Resident Evil 5. It's my roommate's favorite Resident Evil game, actually. But I remember we tried like 6. We tried to play 6, and as we were going through it, like we finished like Leon's thing, and it was just like it was like this. It was okay. with some ridiculous things of like the beginning of like, I don't want to shoot you, Mr. President.
Oh yeah, that was it's so campy.
Something that feels like
so funny.
Something that feels just like right at home in like a B movie. And then like literally we got to like Chris's part with like these things with like these like weird things that just shot you, and I was like, and we're like, no, this is bad. No, we're good. We're leaving. And we never touch a game since.
That's the weird thing about Resident Evil 6. I think if you're going to play it, Leon's campaign, it's well worth playing through. It is hilarious. It was a lot of fun.
Outside of like one or two missions, I would agree with that. Like, there's some ridiculous chapters in there that are really fun to play with a friend. I would think, it is just popcorn like thriller, but even though it's clearly trying to not be that, the best way I could describe RE6 is just a really big swing and miss. You know, like you line up your bat, like you're ready to go. You think you know what pitch is coming, and you swing, and you just totally missed it. Like that is what RE6 is like.
And granted, for you and I, Brendan, we like to look at the level design overall of the game and just kind of laugh at how poorly implemented it's been. Like just falling through a tunnel and just somehow ended up right outside the church.
Right, or how like every like one or two missions in each campaign is reused from a previous chapter. And then like a lot of the texturing isn't good even for the time. Like it seems like they were really focusing on the content of the game and not the look of it, which is admirable considering what the future of the industry was like. Because again, this is like 2012, 2011?
2012, yeah.
Yeah.
Which was a crazy... Yeah, that was like the year... Oh god, that was a crazy like time.
Right, like, so now if RE6 came out now, it would be split up into like 4 different campaigns. They all would have come out as separate games. You know, they would like...
It probably would not have been a full game. It probably would have been advertised as like side stories to some other Resident Evil timeline, and each like comes out as episodes.
It's really interesting. It seems like it's again like I said, just a big miss. Just like they tried, they knew what they were doing, but they just totally missed like what the ball was.
I don't know. I have to disagree because I think like that the thing that really brings all the game together is Hunk. Hunk brings all the game together.
That's the stream
Hunk
reference.
is the best character ever.
If you guys want to understand the Hunk reference, go to twitch.tv/Hawkeye726 or, well...
twitch.tv/LinkFan1291.
And I'm just kidding. I don't really have anything just yet.
Nothing to plug yet.
Hey, you could start doing something.
This episode is just about plugs. That might be the title, is plugs.
Or after we finished Leon's campaign, we started playing Chris's campaign. It just then became a slug to play through.
Oh my God.
It became a generic third-person shooter. Especially once the zombies could suddenly wield guns.
Yeah, it really just brings it. It's so weird because it's just like just the simple act of like having the like zombie have a gun. Just like really, just like brought it down for me.
Yeah, but they don't just wield guns though. They fly jets, they fly helicopters, they drive tanks. Like, there's very little zombie about them.
They're they are very intelligent zombies.
Yeah, they are the strangest thing, and the way that they play with the C virus in terms of like game canon makes like zero sense. All right, this is a deadly virus that can wipe out humanity, but we also use it to clone people into... What?
The virus is just a plot device. That's all it has become.
But also it has existed for hundreds of years because there are zombies in medieval armor that wander around, and it's like, wait, what?
That was somehow built by Simmons, don't forget.
Also, the medieval engineers built a hideaway that goes to the center of the earth, but comes back up in Beijing for some reason. I don't know.
It all makes sense if you don't think about it. Just consume.
Yeah,
right?
I think
don't think about it.
I think that Resident Evil 6 has like the worst case of like Resident Evil. What the fuck is this architecture? Who has time to actually make and build this shit?
What actual alien built this? Yeah.
Anything else, Brendan?
Just I've been getting really into chess. I'm playing a lot of chess lately. I'm not any good at it. I'm terrible at chess, but I play a lot. I play that and listen to music. I actually just heard an album that I like am really, really into. It's like my 8th rated album of all time now. It's called Sorry, the album is, what is it? It's like For the First
New
Time.
Country, Black Country, New Road.
Black Country New Road is the name of the band.
Oh.
But these are like, it's really interesting because it's just like a bunch of college kids. They're like literally younger than us.
Well,
They're like 19, 20 or like 21, that age.
Well, could it be like a self-named album? Like, because I know like a lot of like bands tend to do that now.
No, it's not. I know it's not. It seems like it because that's the biggest title on the box, but it's not. It's For the First Time is the name of the album. Holy crap! Did that take me by surprise? I did not anticipate the experimental rock / jazz that I was gonna get out of that. Like I heard one album or one of the songs from it, and I was like, this is really really good. What is the rest of this? And it's like really weird. Like my favorite song on the album is a song called Science Fair, and it just goes from like one weird bit of music to the next, but like some of it flows really well together, some of it doesn't, and that's why I didn't give it like a perfect score or anything. But like, man, it was really really good, and I just was completely caught by surprise. I had no idea what that thing was. I just found it on someone's stream one day. They were like, "Oh, this album's coming out." It's like, what is this? And I googled it. Glad I did. It's great. I loved it. And that's really it. I don't really haven't really been playing much. Hopefully that'll change soon. I'm gonna start streaming some real playthroughs of games. We'll see what happens with that.
And you might catch Will and I in one of them.
That's
Who
right.
knows?
Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen in the future?
Future's a concept.
All right, so we have 2 topics for today's show. We're obviously not going to do a news segment this week. This episode is kind of think of it as it's episode 2, but it's also a bonus episode for this week because there were some schedule flubs, and this was supposed to be the second episode, but we got pushed back a little bit. So now it's a bonus one. So instead of doing the news, like I said, we have 2 topics. The first topic is, what would be your game of the year for 2020? Now, my criteria for this is a little wide, because I don't think that like game of the year for 1 year is like it's like that smart of a thing. I think it's kind of dumb. Like it's like this, who cares? Like, but I think it is interesting to reflect on the year that most people had the most time to play video games, and reflect on what was your standout one or set of standout ones that you liked playing throughout last year. Will, what would you like to go first?
I would have to think on that one, actually. Because I thought you were just going to bring up like just games of 2020. I didn't think you were going to bring up just games we played in 2020, so...
Oh, in that case, I think I have mine, unless you want to say yours first, Brendan.
I don't... You go first, Michael. I'm going to think about it just for a little bit.
All right, because I saw that like you talking about it earlier, and for like my game of 2020, I realized that for like both things, which was I honestly last year I didn't really play many games that was like in the year 2020. I played Persona 5 Royal, but even though I think that like Persona 5 Royal is amazing, I just didn't really feel like saying, yeah, that's my favorite. First of all, I wouldn't exactly call it my favorite game that I played last year. And B, to me, Persona 5 Royal, better than Persona 5, but it still kind of feels like a DLC to me. So saying like, oh yeah, this is like the best game of 2020, I don't think that it's like right for me to say. But, and the only other 2 games I played other than that was like Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, which was good, but not as good as my actual pick, which is going to be Yakuza Like a Dragon. This year for me has largely been, hey, I have been really enjoying Yakuza. Let me play a bunch of Yakuza. Oh no, I've only been playing Yakuza. I played Yakuza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 at the very, very end of the year. And I do have to say that Like a Dragon was definitely worth it. It had like a very, very like nice story to go along with it. The gameplay, only thing I could say is like the gameplay after a while can get a bit stale. I think that I would have much preferred, instead of like having like, because in Yakuza Like a Dragon there's like a job system similar to like the what is it? I think that they do it in Dragon Quest. Yeah, it has that, and honestly, I'm not exactly too keen on it. It just makes like the characters feel like, oh, why would I actually went through like the entire game playing like as a unique class because that's just what I prefer. It made the game extremely hard for me at certain points, but I much prefer like having like a character instead of like having like 12 jobs that pretty much everyone can have out with like 10, 15 skills each. I'd rather have like each character have their own unique personal job with like 20, 25 skills in each of them. But other than that, the story was really good. It was like a nice, really personal story. The gameplay was like actually really nice. With a world that was was probably the goofiest out of like all the Yakuza games, but it also felt like it made the most sense being like the most goofy. Seeing as though like how like Kasaga and like the group basically are and interact with each other, and it's hard for me to say it's really close to like beating Yakuza 0, but it's just not quite there yet. The story of Yakuza 0 is just like still a little bit better for me, but it's definitely like my second favorite Yakuza game. So it would definitely have to be like my game of the year.
Everybody, I was trying Trapped Inside, so I played a lot of games that I might have otherwise not finished. I also got what is for me a moderately new rig, even though it's just a laptop. I can run stuff that I wasn't able to run before. So I started playing games like Witcher 3. I played through Tomb Raider 2013, which I actually really liked. And I played a bit of Rise of the Tomb Raider, its sequel after that. I haven't finished that yet, so I won't say that that's like a game of the year for 2020 kind of thing. But I also played like a moderate amount of stuff that came out last year. Like I played Doom Eternal. I really enjoyed that. And I played Hades. I haven't finished that either. Which is a common theme for me. Oh, you haven't finished that? I really enjoyed Hades. Especially considering like how long they worked on it and all like development practices behind that game. It's really, really just an amazing piece of art. I'd have to say though, my favorite game of like 2020 might be Witcher 3. It's the one that I've been playing the most off and on. I've started The Witcher 3 like 1 or 2 times, but I didn't actually get into Witcher 3 until last year. And I just like went on like a spiral after that. Like I started playing Witcher 3, I got into Gwent. Gwent might be the actual game of the year choice because I played so much Gwent.
But what about Apex?
No. I did play a lot of Apex, but I'm coming close to saying that I don't like Apex. Really? I think I like the looting mechanic, and I almost want to say it triggers nostalgia in me for playing games like DayZ and Rust Alpha with my friends in high school or people that I knew online or whatever. And I think that's why Apex has such an appeal, because it reminds me of those days, and that's why I play it a lot. Even though it's just the same, like, it's literally the same match over and over and over and over and over again. And you fail a lot for kind of, like, lousy reasons. Yeah. So that's why I wouldn't say it's, like, my favorite game ever. But I think it triggers that part of my brain that liked those other things. I put, like, 400 hours into Rust. I put, like, 300 hours into DayZ over the course of, like, a couple of years. So, like, obviously, there was something appealing about those two initially that made me want to do that. But I don't know. But yeah, I would say my game of the year last year, if I had to pick one, is probably of the wider scope, not just of last year, is Witcher 3. Because I found a whole new series that I liked. I have a series that, like, no matter what comes out in it, if it's good or bad, I just like it because it's in the universe. And those two universes are Halo and Alien. Alien/Blade Runner, because I think they're in the same universe. So whenever an Alien movie comes out, even if the Alien movie is terrible, I like watching it. Because I just like the universe, and I'm interested in seeing how people either screw it up or, or they do well on it.
I actually didn't know that like that the Blade Runner universe and the Alien universe were like part of one universe. Actually,
they might as well be. They have the same director, a lot of the same art design, and it's a fun fan theory. And I think Ridley Scott even said they were at one point, but Ridley Scott says a bunch of dumb stuff all the time, so. Ridley Scott once did a rant in the middle of talking about Blade Runner about Beavis and Butthead, so whatever. Like, I've learned from being a former fan of like big franchises like Star Wars. Like, I'm not really into Star Wars anymore, but I've learned that like, why be so serious? Like, it's like, yeah, these are big properties that are going to bounce around between people. And some people are going to have good interpretations, and some people are not going to have bad interpretations. Or at least, in your opinion, they are going to have a good or bad interpretation of that piece of media. So I'm more inclined to just be like, well, I like the ideas of the original piece of media. Like, I love the original Alien, but I actually am not the biggest fan of Aliens. Which is funny, because a lot of people say the opposite. But it also means that I get to enjoy things like Alien Covenant, which butchers the Alien universe. Like, it just is stupid. Like, it doesn't make any sense inside the universe, but it's so funny to watch. It's so ridiculous. Like, it's so good. So it just gives me this ability to, like, enjoy things without having a personal investment in it.
I guess it's just I like to have, I don't know, I would hope that the people making these properties would have more respect for the universe that these creators have created, especially like why people or these people who really do like love these franchises because they grew up with them.
This might be a bit of a doomer take, but I would say let go of it. Who cares? Because you are never ever going, unless you like become like a famous director or a famous game studio or whatever, you're never going to get your hands on this property. You cannot let what other people do with something that you like that is owned by a corporation dictate how your day is going or how your life is. You know, like, I am not going to get bent out of shape about a bad Star Wars movie anymore. I'm just not. Like, I don't care.
I can't become jaded at Star Wars. I've come to accept it. Like, okay, Disney has no clue what they're doing. It's but it's in their hands. I would just have to hope that someone else gets rid of it, but whatever. But if I were to ever become like a well-known artist or whatever, I would just hope that the universe that I create is good at that point.
Right.
That's the only thing that any like person that's trying to do like, you know, creative, you know, arts such as like writing or artistry or film or can really aspire to do, at least if it's not like supposed to be a grounded fiction. But yeah, just in general, do remember that at the end, all these stories are fiction. So there's no reason to, you know, it is like beloved, but it is at the end still like a fiction,
and you can
still
pick
like a
and
story.
choose what you want to keep. If you do not like the new set of Star Wars movies, you don't even have to acknowledge them. You don't have to. They don't have to be part of your life. As with the prequels, as with the originals. You know,
as was said about gatekeeping, you just because you like something does not mean that you need to know every single thing about it. No, being a fan of something or liking something does not have to be stressful.
So I'm fine with being a fan of something. I am not as big a fan as making that thing part of your life, like the thing that's who you are. You know, like. You're like, I am a Star Wars fan, and that's what represents my values. It's like, really? The creation of a 70-year-old man who hasn't touched it in 30 years is your life's goal? To go to every all right. and also, like, it's another thing of, like, interpretation, right? So if it's like somebody else gets their hands on the thing that you like, being able to detach yourself from that thing just makes it easier to swallow. Because even your perfect version of Star Wars, of Alien, of whatever, you know, in your head, what your perfect version is somebody else's worst nightmare. I have a Star Wars pitch that I've had, like, just forever. I love that pitch. I think it would make a really good movie, but somebody else might see that and go, that is dumb. So, Will, what are your favorite games of 2020, or what is your favorite game of 2020?
Well, I don't know. There's much like you, I had a lot of on and off games. I'm like, hey, this seems kind of fun, yeah, and then I just never go back to it.
Yeah.
Like, I have Hades. I played a little bit of that. It was a fun roguelike hack and slash dungeon crawl, and I haven't really gone back to it since like the first time I played it. And I even like saw a little bit of a little bit of stuff from some other person talking about it, and I'm like, or I saw all of the skills that he acquired, and I'm like, oh dear God. I didn't realize like how I guess customizable you can make this guy. But I haven't really played through that. I played a bit of Black Mesa, the Half-Life remake, which was pretty cool.
I finished that.
I haven't finished it.
Spoilers. They have a sequel.
Nah. Anyways,
if I'm being honest, I've actually never played a Half-Life game. Not once. Never.
Half-Life 1 is better than 2.
It's harder to go back to now because of like how old it is.
Is
but
it?
Yes, it like in pieces. Half-Life 2 is more playable than Half-Life 1, but Half-Life 1 in terms of like gameplay and narrative did more for the genre than Half-Life 2 does.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it was Half-Life that standardized the WASD movement.
Yeah, they standardized that. They introduced the gameplay mechanic of the story is introduced to you slowly rather than just like as a background thing. Like Half-Life 1
all the levels are. The entire game is like one giant level instead of just being
right, and everything is the level design is really well articulated. Like this, it's Half-Life 1 is really really good. Black Mesa is all right, considering it's a fan-made remake. A lot of people have been like doing the thing now of like, oh, I'll just play Black Mesa instead of playing Half-Life 1, which just like defeats the point of Half-Life 1. But all right, I understand, like, because I understand people's thinking behind that, because they're like, oh, I need to play this to understand the story behind Half-Life 2. No, you do not. I started Half-Life 2 before I played Half-Life 1.
I mean, hell, it took me a long time to actually like play through the Half-Life series. I started with 1, I think, at some point, but that was before I really even knew what Half-Life really was. I played it for a bit, I'm like, this is just kind of meh about it. And then Half-Life 2, I'm just like, I don't get why people consider this to be like the greatest game of all time. What is it? Until then, I finally finished through 2. I started to appreciate it. Then I went back to 1. And I'm like, okay, now
it clicks, yeah.
Now it clicks. I think just weird because it's kind of like with Ocarina of Time. It's like they introduced a lot of like, I guess, revolutionary mechanics for the genre, but they're standard nowadays.
Right. And it's hard to go back to something that established the standard, because you play it and you're like, this is like everything else I've played. Why is it? And it's because it's the first of it, you know? Like, it's like watching an action movie and being like, okay, this is an action movie. And then it's like watching Die Hard. And it's like, well, yeah, this is an action movie, but it's the first, like, traditional action movie.
Yeah, like, one thing I like as an example of like that as well is, I didn't really mention this earlier, but one other, I'm not going to go like too in-depth with this, especially since it's got a few hot takes about it. I actually just for the first time beat Metal Gear Solid. I played the Twin Snakes version. I know that's like a sin, but I played the Twin Snakes version and you know, that was like supposed to be like the very first game that was like, oh yeah, we have like all this stuff like voice like very first like that's like fully voice acted, and it's like, oh wow, it's like really cool, and like a lot of people grew up with this game. But I kind of felt like that a lot of like Metal Gear Solid was like a product of its time. Like, it's not great nowadays, but it was like, I could definitely like appreciate like, oh yeah, this is like this would have been a big deal.
Like if before all you had played was like Super NES and then like 64 and then going to that, like, yeah, that's a big deal, you know.
It's the kind of thing where it's like, and not to knock off like the actual design of the levels or whatever, because they are still well crafted. But like that was just new territory for gaming as a whole, so
right.
It's like they kind of had to take baby steps before really leaping off the cliff.
And can I just say, this is going to be like the hottest of takes. I totally understand why people say gamer culture is toxic. I totally get it. It's like, seriously, there are people that will be mad at you for not playing a specific game in a certain order and for certain mechanics. Like, seriously? Seriously. With everything going on in the world, you're going to get mad because someone played Twin Snakes instead of Metal Gear 1?
or saying like, oh, I like this game. You and you said that you didn't. I hate you. I hate you.
I mean, the only time I really ever get mad at people, like not using mechanics correctly is when they're trying to critique the game, and claim make bold claims and not really understanding what the intent behind some stuff are. You know,
I don't get mad at people for that. I just go, oh, you either you don't understand, or you're being willfully ignorant, or you're just trying to do like there's all kinds of different ways to analyze.
Intentionally making the game look bad.
Right. Like there's all kind of different ways to do that, and even then you're like, I fundamentally disagree with your point because of this, and this, and you say that in a pretty like calm voice, and if you're not gonna get anything in like reciprocal from that, like someone just then they like or should to you, at that point you just back away. Like, I don't understand. Like, this is part of a video that I'm making right now with Mike. It's like, I don't understand this like constant attitude of, oh my god, the Games Press said this game is bad and I like it, so that means Game Press stupid doy. Or and then like, not only am I gonna do that, but I'm gonna send people threats over Twitter because of a game that I haven't played yet in some cases, because the review came out before the game did. Or it's like, oh, there's a new movie out, you know, or yeah, there's a new movie out. It's from my favorite director. The critiques from it are a little, I instead of going, okay, well, I guess that person just, agree to disagree, whatever. Everybody has their own taste. No, that person is my enemy. Like, come on. That's a little silly. There can be nuanced takes, as we're about to have with Spec Ops: The Line, I think. I think everybody's got some interesting viewpoints in that game.
Ooh, very interesting.
So, yeah. So I'm excited to talk about that. Let's go to Cyberpunk. Or it's not Cyberpunk, God. Oh my god.
We're not talking about Cyberpunk, I swear.
I never want to talk about
Cyberpunk
in
over there.
form again. Oh my god, I'm so sick of Cyberpunk. I haven't even played it yet.
Yeah, it's kind of like it's just like a dead talking point at this point. Everyone like had their fun. Like in December, it was like, hey, this game doesn't like work well for like most people, and some people are like, oh, you're dumb, and other people are like, no, I literally can't play, and some people just like watching the car fire burn. But now it's just,
I think
like,
the only
who
thing you
cares?
can really gauge to like put a bow on that previous segment, is like you can gauge people's tastes. If somebody really likes The Room and like Troll 2, and those are like their favorite movies, and they're being super legitimate about it, okay, you don't agree with that person's taste, and you think they have some bad takes. All right, moving on. That's it. Like I said, that's it. Like,
I hate Brendan. Those are my favorite movies, you ass, and I'm being legitimate. Hey, Brendan, you better sleep with one eye open tonight.
if you can walk from here to Florida, then have at it.
Readily done, motherfucker.
God. Spec Ops: The Line is a 2012 third-person shooter that I played recently. It's from a German studio called Jaeger. This is actually their only, I think, one of their few games. I think they only made like 2 or 3 games. Funny enough, one of the writers on this game actually went on to found the studio that made Hades.
Oh, is that? Oh, fuck.
That's
actually
hilarious.
Good on him. Good on him.
It's
Yeah.
awesome.
He was an American guy
congrats
who
to
was
that
working
guy.
in Germany at the time, and he flew over to, he flew back to the U.S., started his own development studio.
That's awesome of him. Nice.
Congrats on that guy.
This is a last-gen game. This just came out right
technically
before
2 generations now.
what used to be 2 generations ago, technically. It was for the PS3 and 360. It also came out on the PC as well. It was supposed to be a reboot of the Spec Ops series, which is a series of tactical first-person shooters that nobody played.
So when's the Wii port coming out?
This was part of the... An interesting background of this game is that this was supposed to be part of the Call of Duty craze, which is that, everybody had to be like Call of Duty. Everybody had the big... have the big multiplayer suite. You had to have the campaign. Had to have online functionality. Gotta have it. It's gotta be American military. This is the Modern Warfare 2 era, baby, where everything's gotta be American soldiers.
Well, wasn't also in like the Gears of War craze where it's like, oh, I love me some third person cover shooters.
Kind of, but it was more. It was just more supposed to be a Call of Duty clone. They literally went to the studio, and I watched there's a video about it by Reykjavik, I think is the name of the channel. He covers like first person shooters or like popular shooters from the past, and in that video he cites that literally 2K went to Jaeger, the studio, and said, "We don't care what you make, just make it multiplayer."
And to be fair about to Spec Ops, like it's always been a military shooter, tactical shooter kind of thing. So it's like if you're going to bring in a new or a up-and-coming third-person shooter, might as well bring in a franchise that's already seen that kind of action,
Oh, and the other writer of the game worked on Resident Evil 7. There is actually some real talent behind this. Actually, that's nuts. That's kind of crazy.
Nuts. I will say that yes, on the surface, it looks like a typical generic shooter of the time, right? Like any other, like most AAA titles that came out around the time. But I gotta say, I really gotta give credit to how they handle certain scenes in the game.
It should be noted now that we are entering spoiler territory for Spec Ops: The Line. If you wish to not have spoilers on what is a 10-year-old, almost 10 years old. It's about 8 years old now. It'll be 8 years old in June, I guess, or 9 years old in June.
There's your time.
Leave now.
This is the last chance that you have to walk away. This is, press that big red X in the right hand corner if you do not want to be spoiled on this 9-year-old ass game.
It's like 6 hours too. It's really short.
Yeah, please play it before listening to us three idiots ramble about Spec Ops: The Line.
So those of you that stayed and don't care, whatever. So, as I was saying, like I think there are some good examples, like when there's a scene where you meet up with I can't remember his name, but it was like you meet up with some soldier who like freed himself from this stupid interrogation, right? And he suddenly points a gun at you, and I like the fact that if you actually wait just a hot moment, you'll actually like converse with him, and he'll actually like sort of back away, you know? Granted, you still have to probably kill him later on, but I like that you get slightly more information if you don't just outright shoot him.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. It's the, was he the 33rd or the, I can't remember, was he 33rd or CIA?
I think he was 33rd.
I feel as though he was CIA, actually.
Yeah, that was the CIA guy. He was investigating the 33rd. And that's the first twist of the game, is that you kill him. He's like, CIA, what's going on here?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
You're like, why would we kill our own? Yeah.
Yeah, not gonna lie, killing, like the entire thing of, like, oh yeah, we're killing, like, these, like, whoever's, it's like, oh, who cares? But when I was, like, killing, like, I was like, oh, we're killing American soldiers, like, I don't, this doesn't feel, like, great.
There's something that that's interesting that they do. Like, the initial enemies in the game are just, like, stragglers from some kind of, like, interesting disaster that happens. And the opening cutscene of the game is very interesting, especially considering the ending of the game. Because you think it's like, oh, this is just an edited shot to make it like he's in a fancy apartment and then he flies out of the apartment, and then we see that there's a disaster city and this is the start of the story. They changed something up there that I think is very interesting. There's also did you guys pay attention to the billboards?
Oh!
I tried my best to look at like, every billboard
Crap.
I could.
Yeah, so
I try to pay attention to every billboard that I could find. I don't think I found all of them, but I tried my best.
did you notice who was on almost all of the billboards?
No, actually.
I
kept on seeing, like,
the main colonel character from the end of the story.
Conrad?
He's on all the billboards.
Conrad?
Conrad is watching you the entire time. He is on all the billboards.
Oh my god. That is very interesting. Kind of reminds me of like the G-Man Easter eggs.
Right.
Or like another thing I should have also brought up was like the first time that where you actually like come across enemies, and what I find really interesting what the game does is that a lot of the cutscenes that immediately present you with danger, like as soon as you take control of the character, guns are immediately pointed at you, and I'm sure a lot of people's first instinct is, oh, I gotta shoot these guys. But I like that, again, if you wait a bit longer, your party tells you, hey, if you just shoot the glass above, you'll knock them all out. And I'm like, oh. And
Right.
then that also teaches you to sort of keep an eye out for any possible buildup of glass or sand and glass.
Yeah. I like waited as well. I was like, okay, if we can like go through this like non-violently, let's just go through it non-violently. I was like, okay, violence then. And then one thing I will say as like a complaint about this like is story is great. Gameplay could do some like touching up. Some definite touching up. I particularly did not like how, it had like that like almost like a lot of enemies were basically like bullet sponges for one.
Unless you were headshotting them.
Unless you're headshotting them. But you guys are probably on like keyboard and mouse. I was on controller, so trying to like get it to like the heads was like next to impossible, especially if they're like really far away. And and not only were they bullet sponges, there are also at certain points of the game a literal fuck ton.
Particularly towards the end.
Towards the end, and I remember like one part killed me like 5 times. It was like you're protecting Lugo. No, Adams. Lugo was the other guy. You're protecting Adams while he was like trying to find like Lugo's position. Before you found out that he was hanged. By like the populace.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like, oh my gosh, there's like so many of them. all right, I'm kind of getting a little low on ammo. Oh my god, it's like 4 other, like, the hard ones and a heavy.
Oh, those
Holy
heavies in
fuck.
particular
Yeah.
are freaking annoying.
So it was just like a few like few things like I would much appreciate if it like sure have like you can make the heavies like bullet sponges, but if you could don't make every enemy a bullet sponge.
Yeah.
And I think that
Also, part of it also I will probably say is like partially my fault because playing as I said before, I was playing on PlayStation Now. And I was on controller, and trying to aim with controller is just harder than playing on keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
So like trying to like get like the headshots and stuff was like difficult, but it was like either like not make all like the enemies bullet sponges or just make like less enemies. Every like chapter doesn't need to have like a million different enemies that you have to hold out against.
Don't forget, you're
In my
also supposed to
opinion.
use the tactics part of it as well. Like you had to like pinpoint each.
Oh, I
number.
tried.
Yeah, that I don't think they do a good job of incentivizing you to do that because one, it's easier to like, especially on PC, to headshot everybody. So if you just focus on that, like you can pretty much get everybody except for the heavies. The heavies are the hardest part because like they wear that like metal face mask or whatever, and it just becomes
and even then,
impossible.
like you shoot them in the face, you have to
only
shoot them
section
in the
that I
face
had,
like 10 times to down them.
Yeah, yeah. The biggest problem with me was that ending section at the fort, which I think has a nice. I think it has a nice payoff, but like, it just becomes I especially like that scene at the end, where you fight your way all the way through the tower. You have to destroy the fort. There's all this like destruction, and you get to the end, and they're like, "We salute you, sir. We surrender. The 33rd surrenders. We're yours." And he's like, "Okay,"
Yeah.
and they're like, "We're all that's left, sir." Like, that's it. Like, there's like 8 guys left. And of course, you're like, well, yeah, there would only be like 8 guys left because I killed like 1,000 of them on the way.
Even then, though, there weren't really 8 soldiers left.
Of course, yeah. Of course there aren't really 8 soldiers left, but we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves. I think there's an important scene to talk about, and I think it's the most important scene in the game. Because I think for a lot of people, it's the first section where they go, oh, this is what this is about. And of course, that's the scene with the shelling. I'm curious what your guys' reaction to that scene was.
All right, I'm going to say something real quick. I came in with this with like knowing like as much as like I wish I didn't.
Mm.
I had already come into the game with like a little bit of knowledge. I actually saw a YouTuber's channel. I'll like find out who it is when I can. Because I do want to give proper credit where credit is due, especially since this person actually made a very good, well like thought out video on it. But I came in with like more than like zero knowledge.
Yeah.
And I like knew about like a bunch of stuff. I forgot like one of the ending twists, but I already knew about like that scene.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely hit me less than if I were to go in completely, but it still felt like, especially when you see like I know like a lot of people's like seeing like the woman, the woman putting her hands over like the child.
Yeah.
Was like was really sad. The one that honestly got me was seeing like in the background you could see like a bunch of people clawing at the fence, like right behind them.
Yeah.
Seeing as though that like they tried to escape as as desperately as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But it makes me really like feel unfortunate that I didn't get to experience like that scene with like completely fresh eyes.
Yeah, because I myself was lucky enough to have like pretty much gone into this game completely blind.
I threatened Will to do that too. I was like, do not
Yeah.
look up anything.
Yeah.
He literally bullied
So when
him.
I got to that moment and we realized what we had done, I legit felt sick to my stomach at myself.
Uh,
Like the fact that I got so caught up in destroying the enemy and just seeing like all of those people down there, just thinking, okay, those are enemy soldiers, we gotta get rid of them.
Oh, you thought it was... I knew... by that point, I knew what was going on. But that's interesting that you didn't even think. You're like, oh, that's just combatants. Gotta go.
That's what my thought process was. So the fact that I thought these were enemies, but they weren't, I was like, oh my god, what have I done? Oh my god.
It's confirmed, Will, you're a monster.
And like, I didn't want to play anymore, not because, you know, the game was bad or anything. I was just like, I don't want to... I just want to stop killing people.
Yeah, and that's something that's interesting about the main character of the game, is that he literally, that's all, he just goes in with good intentions, and everything is about, how do I minimize harm? And he just maximizes the harm, like, out of everything. Like, everything is the worst it could possibly be. But...
Well, not only that, but also, I think, like, one of, like, the most interesting things is, like, you know, he sees everything, and his, like, overall decision was to basically, what do? Ignore it. We have our orders.
Right.
Conrad will pay for what he did. Mm-hmm. He immediately like denies it and puts the blame on Conrad, even though it was 100% his orders. That, especially when Lugo did not even want to like mortar the combatants.
I mean, there was a bit of, I guess, ludonarrative dissonance between me and the main character, because I'm just like, what have I done? But for him, it's just like, this is all Conrad's fault. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about?
There's an interesting bit of context behind that scene. For one, the camera angle is a mimicking of leaked footage from Afghanistan, where U.S. soldiers were firing at civilians. And that came out it came out in the WikiLeaks right at the start of the war, about 2005, 2006. So that's a very famous scene. You can find it if you feel like looking at that.
I don't do well with, like, actual...
It's not, but that's the thing, though, is that it's completely desensitized because it's in the same color palette. It's in that same, like, black and white, just footage of whatever. So it's a callback to that scene. And also, so it's one of the first criticisms I have of the game, is that you don't actually get a choice in whether or not you do that or not. You're forced down that road. And I think that's an interesting choice. to have your mechanics up to that point be like, hey, you can avoid violence. Hey, you can avoid violence. Hey, you can avoid violence. Oh, except for this part. It's like, that doesn't fit.
It would basically, like, it would be like the same thing of, like, if Will was like say, like, you're, like, in Will's shoes, and you're like, okay, I don't want to, like, fire at that point right there. I feel so that, like, something's weird about that. But it's basically like, and for Will, it was like, Will was, like, the type of person they were hoping to get. But if you're like, nah, I don't want to feel. I feel something like sus about that. It's like you cannot continue unless you do that part.
I even like attempted to see if I could just shoot all the guys down.
That's what I was going to get to, is that they were actually planning on doing that, but the section was too hard, and they didn't think that enough people were going to see the actual scene, so they wound up cutting it and forcing that to be the mortar scene.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first, like, really big twist. And I think, and again, I like your point, Michael, that instantly he goes, this is Conrad's fault. It's almost a meme. It's like
he's a politician.
I might make that meme. It's like the Eric Andre meme where he shoots the guy and he's like, how could he have done this?
It's like who killed Hannibal?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. See, you can literally go, Walker does something awful. Why would Conrad do this?
I gotta say, though, technically, though, the game did cheat, because all of the, like, you know how you see all the civilians running around before you blow them to high heaven? Technically, the models that they use to get all those moving people, those aren't civilian models, those are just soldier models.
Yeah, so they do try to trick you a little bit into, like, forcing you to shoot at them. And that's definitely on purpose. But there are soldiers around them. You can see them in the scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just like, it kind of feels like they're sort of hiding the fact that they're civilians through the fact that they're just using soldier models.
Well, I suppose it's that might be like a thing of, like, I guess there could be an argument. I wouldn't be, like, too much, but I'm pretty much like devil's advocate.
Right.
Where it's like, maybe that's like the start of, like, that's like the start of, like, what is the main character's name?
Walker.
Walker?
Yeah,
Martin Walker.
of, like, Walker's, like, madness. where it's like it's not active combatants, but like in the heat of the moment in the battlefield, he sees them as like active combatants.
Right.
They might as well be holding like assault rifles and stuff like that.
They're in my way. It's time to remove the.
Yeah.
What's really interesting about this is that this is the first moment where you're like, oh, this is an anti-war game. Because before that, it's like, it's the traditional, like, kind of action-oriented stuff. No, it's a little bit more in-depth than some other things that Call of Duty gives you a little bit more of branching choices and interactability with the world. And I think that's the game's strongest suit, is that there are so many choices. And, like, you don't have to take everybody out. You don't have to shoot everybody. You can use things to incapacitate them. You can knock them out with various different ways. Now, there's no stealth mechanic per se, but there's a lot of like shoot the window and the sand will fall on them and they can't shoot you anymore. You know, you can sneak through certain sections. You don't have to kill certain people. It's very interesting choices in that point. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know if this is true or not, I think this might be one of the first anti-war games. At least this is the most prominent, because it came at a really interesting era in American history, which is 2012, 2011. You know, this is the era where we're supposed to be leaving these wars that we've been in for a decade at that point. And that's not, video games are not traditionally a form of media that you think, oh, this is going to have a political anti-war message. But it does. I think that's its strongest suit, is that.
Like, it legit made me feel bad to play, but that's just because I was a terrible person.
There's an interesting bit towards the end of the game. The rest of it is like they're going after like certain characters and you're trying to get your way to Conrad. But once you finally get there, I think the game introduces, I don't even know if this is intentional, but I think it's the biggest question of the game. Did all of that happen?
Yeah, it's the entire thing of like, because you only see like, you see the guys going there where it's like, we are the last of like the 33rd. But the question is like, because at the very end, is it alright if we like talk about like the ending twist?
Yeah, we've gotten to because there's not much outside of, there's the hanging sequence where it's Adams, right?
It is Adams.
Yeah, who gets hanged by the mob. Which, by the way, there's choices there, too, that I think are very interesting. You can kill the civilians, you can shoot them in the air and they'll run away, or you can just let them get you.
Because I just want to point out, I feel like in any lesser game, they would have just done a typical, like say the whole like shoot the civilians or shoot upwards. It would have been typical press Q or E to either do the evil or good option.
Remember, no Russian.
A lot of that's the thing that's interesting about this game, is that a lot of times they don't even tell you that you're making a choice.
Yeah.
You just make it. You know, and I think that's, I mean, it's part of the messaging, right? Is that these guys don't really have a choice, in quotations, about whether or not they do these actions. They're just told to do it.
Yeah.
They're just following orders. Now, with Twist, that, you guys want to get to Twist? I'm going to let somebody else say Twist. I've talked a lot.
All right. The twist of the very end of the game is you were basically you like throughout the entire game you've been hearing like Conrad talking into your ear, saying like, this is look at all of what you've done, and like talking all this like basically like trash talk at you, and you finally get to the find them, and you see like the the end of the 33rd, and they're like, where is Conrad? And they say he's right up the elevator, sir. And so you get up there and you see him like painting this painting, and after like a brief conversation, you find out that, oh wait, Conrad's been dead this entire time. All this that like that you've been talking with Conrad and stuff like that has just all been a figment of your imagination, and you've actually been and was like subtle hints with like the that most people would not probably catch with the with your teammates. Or they're like looking at you like strangers, saying, like, "Is everything all right, Walker?" But you were the only one to hear Conrad's voice. It was all just a figment of your imagination in order to protect the conscience of Connor or of Walker.
Right, and even the painting itself is of the scene of the shelling scene of the remains of the people.
And it's like, especially once it's revealed that the character has a psychological problem, a lot of scenes made sense. Because I remember there was one section of the game I was like really confused about, and I think it was like when you're in the mall or something, and suddenly you're in a room that's like constantly blinking because faulty light bulb, whatever, and then like just the guy just keeps teleporting around, and I'm like, what the How is he? What the
Yeah.
hell? But then that's revealed. Like, oh my god, that now it makes
Right.
sense.
Yeah, because that really does beg the question of like, all right, how much like did I even really fight the 33rd? You'd have to think like you had to at some point, right? Because that's how, at the very least, how Adams died. Lugo was just straight up hanged by the civilians, but
Hell, the freaking radio broadcaster dude had to have been real because your partners were interacting with him.
Are your partners real,
Yeah.
though?
that's also
Because
like,
the
a very
game has a
interesting
really big plot hole if they are real, because, like, who follows this guy at a certain point? You know, like how long would you follow your commander if
Although
your
then that
commander
would-
is, like...
Then that begs the question if the civilians there were real.
Right. Well, here's my, like, kind of, like, little theory about the game. The basically, Walker is in purgatory. Or he's on the verge of, like, mulling these things over. And so he's reliving parts of his life. So he's a soldier, so he's experienced some really dark stuff. And he's living through all these various scenarios. And he's justifying it to itself as like, these were orders, these were orders, these were orders. I don't know if that's the entirety of the point of the game. I'm kind of mixed on it. But, because otherwise it has, like, kind of, like, big plot holes. So it's like, okay.
I can.
But,
here's the thing. I can allow like a few like plot holes. I've never like the thing is like I don't really like to say like he's in purgatory because I feel as though that's like people will say that about like fucking anything
That's
at this
true.
point. Like, oh, Angelica,
Link's dead!
Link's dead. Angelica has always like throughout the entirety of Rugrats had like very serious mental disorder. It's like I feel as though it's like almost like a way to excuse like maybe like some plot holes or like trying to like justify like something that really isn't there. So I for that I'd have to disagree with you and just say like yeah, the game has like a few plot holes.
yeah.
But because I do think like my general belief is I do believe that that Lugo and Adams were there, and that there probably was like some of like the 33rd, but it was, and I think it was like probably a big exaggeration,
Yeah.
or it might have been like, or might have been like just like them fighting locals.
What did you guys make of the epilogue?
Well, all right. So which endings did you guys get? If you did,
I did all of them
already.
So
I did all of them too, but my like the first ending that I like achieved, I shot Conrad or who we perceived to be Conrad,
Right.
or whatever, and then I just went home with the soldiers.
Which I want to get to. All right, and that like because I'll say which one I did first, which was I actually shot myself.
yeah,
I shot Walker.
I did that too.
And had him just like go down with have him take responsibility. So
Right.
at least I think the more interesting question or version of this question is in your mind, because there's four different. In your mind, which one do you think is canon?
Oh,
Like
Walker.
which one do you think is like?
I think Walker killing himself is probably the most accurate ending to the game, considering everything that leads to that point and discovering that Conrad isn't real. Now, there's an argument to be made that says, like, he's blamed everything on Conrad to this point, so why would he stop now? Even after the discovery that Conrad is dead, you know?
Mm-hmm. Which, that ending I actually do think is, like, the most evil ending.
Mm.
Because it's like, you did all this horrible stuff to, like, all these people. You lost, like, you're, like, the only people who, even though that they didn't want it, at times did not want to, they did trust you with their lives. And you're getting away with everything practically scot-free.
Mm-hmm.
I actually say the most evil ending is when you shoot the soldiers.
Which,
That's
if
the
I'm
most
being
silly
honest,
one, I think, but...
I don't know. I actually think, to me, that's, like, the best ending.
Really?
Really?
Yeah, because the entire thing of his thing is he has basically been trying to deny his deny his situation. He's been trying to make he's been fighting a war that has all for this entire time being in your mind, and him basically not being able to let go, even for these people that might have like good intentions, for him to basically like break that, and basically he himself has become the comrade that he has constructed in his mind, I think is perhaps the best ending.
I could see that. The thing with me for the killing of the soldiers in the epilogue, it just seems like just like a bit much. Like it's like, okay, yeah, it's just a choice that you can do because you have to, if you're going to allow someone to choose to either shoot the soldiers or not, you have to allow them to shoot. So, like, it just seems silly. Like at that point, it just seemed like, okay, it's the cycle of violence and blah, blah. Like at that point, it's like, okay. Like I kind of don't like the epilogue, although there's hints in the epilogue that he's not even alive.
Yeah, because when he in the ending that you guys that Will said is like, or that you said that was in the best ending, the canon ending, where he goes home with the soldiers. He does say, the soldier says, what happened? I saw like the stuff happening here. What happened? How did you make it out alive? And he said, who said I was?
Right.
I think that kind of like says like, that kind of like puts that shadow down as like, is he even still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Although, to be fair, it could be a question of, like, is he, like, truly alive, or is he, like, just mentally, is he even
Well, yeah,
alive?
I think that the thing is, like, whether he's, like, dead or alive, he is basically a dead man walking. He will never be the same man that he, walking out as he was walking in. He is not the Walker anymore.
Right.
Hell, I even say, like, him killing himself like that is he takes the easy way out in that case. If he makes that alive, he has to live with everything that he has done.
And of course, once you finish everything is when you get the ending to the Jimi Hendrix song, which is important to know at the front. Because at first you're just like, oh, this is just this guitar riff of the Star Spangled Banner, okay. But then upon further Googling, oh no, this is Jimi Hendrix's version, which was to protest the Vietnam War. So, which fits right in the theme of just, it's an anti-war game, so...
Like, on the surface, it looks like it's glorifying war like any other shooter, but it's like, oh no, I feel awful.
Right.
Yeah.
It feels like it actually took advantage of the gaming medium.
Well, yeah, because like there's this stuff like if you were to die, I think it's like starts becoming more prominent like chapter like 10 or 11, where it starts asking you like really like weird questions like,
in the loading screens, yeah.
How many Americans have you killed today? Or
oh yeah,
you didn't have to like, you could have like done anything else, but you chose this today.
Right.
It starts,
or just comment on how much destruction that you have caused.
The use of the medium here is just it's not perfect, but it's so close to getting to somewhere that like a lot of games just don't do, you know.
Because again, they probably would have just presented it as a simple A or B, good or bad choice.
There's not a lot of like nuance to a lot of video game choices, but this one, like the choices feel real. Like this is like it's interesting when you're like culminating everything into like a score or a sum up, because it's like it's really a mixed bag of ideas. Because he had some like really interesting gameplay ideas that, but with like not so great combat. It's like really standard for the time with like pretty stellar writing in some cases. It's not perfect, but like you know, like it's a very interesting game that comes together in a genre that video games really had not done to that point. I'm not saying there's never been an anti-war video game, but
it was pushing the envelope.
Right.
I would definitely say.
Yeah, especially for its time period.
Yeah. It's like it is a wonderfully like made game in that sense, but it's just a shame that the gameplay is so mediocre.
Oh, yeah. It's
because like I mean, I started to realize that when it comes to first-person shooters, for me, I prefer games like Doom or Team Fortress, where there's a lot of emphasis on moving on top of shooting. So I'm not a huge fan of just slow cover-based shooters.
And it's kind of glitchy cover-based too. Like it does that weird thing where like you move up and down, up and down. Like there's not a lot of movement either. They throw grenades like terribly too. Like they constantly constantly put the pressure on you.
And like the tactics portion where like, you know, you have your squad may shoot specific enemies. I only had them shoot like snipers or turret or enemies behind turrets because like they're far away, and I'm like, okay, you deal with them, I'll just take care of everyone else.
Your problem, not mine.
Right.
But I think it's a shame that it's so basic, because I remember the game will flash up being like, oh, push the mouse wheel to have them throw a frag grenade. I'm like, can I do that whenever? I cannot get them to do that whenever. It feels like I can only do it when the game tells me I can. And I'm like, why can't I have the option? Why can't I have them throw other grenades?
Right.
Yeah,
Or why can't I have to order them to flank the enemy or something? If you have this tactics menu, give me more options than just, oh, shoot that guy for me, please.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The thing is, like,
It's really like it's like 7 out of 10, or like it's like 7 to 8 out of 10 writing with mixed in with like 4 to 5 out of 10 gameplay. Like,
yeah, it's like it's, I really have to like commemorate the fucking like, gameplay and everything, but not the gameplay, the story and everything.
Yeah.
But, and I hear like some people say like, oh, this is my favorite game, and once again, if it's your favorite game, that's your opinion, and you're entitled to it, and all the more power to it. However, I really, really did not mesh well with the gameplay, and it's hard for me to say something like, "Oh, best game ever," if it has even if it has a really good story, but like pretty ass gameplay, because it's and all in all, it is a video game.
right.
Yeah.
I'm there to play a video game as well as like get a story if it like so inclines.
They made some interesting choices with it, but it's still kind of mediocre nonetheless. Especially like the sound effects and things like that.
So-
Like I just didn't like. I thought the gun firing was really bad. Like
It's a shame that they weren't able to continue the series, because I feel like if this was at least somewhat, or this was successful to earn another game, could you imagine what kind of improvements they might have
it's
made?
interesting. In the Reykjavik video, they kind of say like this whole thing kind of happened by accident. Like literally, 2K only did this because they wanted something to compete with Call of Duty. They wanted a multiplayer shooter that would be a big deal. And like they literally didn't check the story like at all, and like the second they found out about it, they were not happy, and it caused the game to have some really bad marketing because it just made the game look like a generic shooter, and so it did really poorly. So like there's a lot of nuance here, and I'm pretty sure the three of us did not play the multiplayer mode. It is a very good thing that we did not play the multiplayer mode, because the multiplayer mode is broken. They didn't finish it. They had to export it to another team, and so it's just
I'm
completely
pretty sure
a
it's
mess.
also dead by now.
Oh yeah, it's totally dead
I'm
by
pretty
now.
sure it's like-
but yeah, it's like literally like the netcode's broken. You can't connect to matches. Matchmaking takes forever, even during launch. Like it was just not a good mode.
Damn.
So this game just exists in this weird like. That's why I like talking about it so much. It just exists in this weird little like universe of its own, where it gets the best parts of creativity, but the worst parts of development hell.
Yeah, it's like I don't want this game to be forgotten, because it is like a great showcase of what games could be.
Right. It shows the depths that gameplay mechanics could do for a narrative without just being cookie cutter choices.
It showed like it was very much like a game. Like I know this. Like it's like going to like someone who's like, yeah, I really want to like write a story, but they like write like some like pretty iffy stuff. It's like taking the best parts of what like the advice they tell you, but also cutting away the fat of like what they shouldn't do,
right?
Of what you shouldn't do. If only they could have been like, wow, we could like make our games like this, but also trim the fat of like what made the game awful.
Right. The biggest problem with Spec Ops: The Line is that it just didn't do well. It wound up underperforming, and a lot of its ideas were not carried on to other things, despite being received relatively well critically, mostly because of the story, in which a lot of the reviews even cite, hey, play this for the story.
Like,
all right, well,
that's kind of weird for games, because I am the kind of guy who puts more of an emphasis of gameplay over story.
The whole industry kind of does that to a point. Like,
yeah. But what I mean by that is just like for the most part, I was kind of, because for me it's like a good story can't really carry a bad gameplay, but good gameplay can carry a bad story.
Right. Like, at a certain point, it's like, who cares about what the story is? It's just playing it for fun. It's like,
yeah, because like the only games I can think of that I really liked playing through it purely for the story, more so than the gameplay and the gameplay was kind of crap, was Spec Ops and the first Witcher game. Because the first Witcher game, there is really good story in there, but the gameplay, it gets better.
But all right, so now here's the question on everyone's mind. I think. What would be your overall rating of Spec Ops: The Line?
I currently, I thought pretty highly of it when I had just finished it, but like I think any game with a twist like immediately sits at like really high in your head, and then as you get some time to reflect, you kind of go, oh well, this doesn't make sense with the twist. Oh wait, there's this plot. Okay, hold on. So like, and then everything kind of like comes together eventually. Like I was super high on BioShock Infinite when I first beat it, which we might play on the podcast at some point. I don't know.
Ooh.
But but after a while, I was like, oh wait, no. Oh, there's this. Oh, there's this. Okay. So at first I was sitting at like a 9 as high, but now I'm more about 7 or 8. This is just a gem of its time. It exists in its own little weird corner of the video game industry in this weird loop where they got to do what they wanted, but also things didn't work out the way they planned. It's interesting.
It's a diamond covered in
Right.
shit.
Well,
It's like I would probably give it like probably a 6 or 7, because it's a shame that it's like it plays like a generic shooter, but the story is better than any generic shooter.
It's probably the best story, one of the best stories of the decade, which is crazy.
Yeah, it's so like I don't want this game to be forgotten. I want more people to play through it and like see the potential the games have on the story. But at the same time, though, it's like gameplay kind of sucks. Ugh.
yeah, I think
Like, it would have to be like probably a 6 probably.
for me, I would give it a solid 7 because I actually like really like vibed and meshed with like the like story and all. Like I have like a little bit of a soft spot for nuance. And this game is like rife with nuance. And like basically like theory crafting. It's like, oh, could it be like this, or maybe it could be this,
Right.
Like a lot, like where it has like a lot of like those
Up for interpretation,
like
kind
things.
of.
That's like it could, yeah, like interpretation. I eat that shit up like like Cheerios in the morning.
Right.
But for me, there's like some things that could be definitely improved as a story, as well as especially the gameplay. This gameplay, I am going to say it was actually like ass, especially playing on a controller. It is just ass.
Even on normal, it got pretty like intense.
I played on normal, and it literally got to the point where at the fort scene, like I pretty much like braved out for like all the other places elsewhere. But at that point, I was like, nah, man, fuck it. I got things to do. I got stuff like I have like study for a test pretty soon. I can't like just be sitting here just dying all the time. So I actually had to put it to like easy.
Like,
just to do
I
it.
was debating on putting on easy because I was just like, I just want to get through this game. I'm tired of replaying this section.
Yeah, that's the thing I didn't like about having to redo all those endings. Is like I do not want to play through this game again. But I love. I guess that's a good sign, right, of how you actually feel on it, with whether or not you want to play it again.
Replayability is it's a big sign of love.
Right, especially in a game as short as this one. It comes in at like I think like if you cut out the cutscenes, probably like 4.5 hours. Which for like $4
Which,
that I got
like-
it for is not that bad, but for $60 at the time,
All right.
But the multiplayer.
yeah, and the multiplayer supports
Shut
this.
up.
Yeah,
All right. So have we said everything about?
I'm pretty sure. Is there anything? I thought the
All right,
acting was
Brendan,
all right.
You want to?
All right, thank you for listening to.
I mean, yeah, I thought it was pretty. No, that was pretty good.
It was pretty good. I'll admit it was pretty good, but that's all
Okay,
I can say about
I will say, I gotta say though, I actually kind of like the characters starting out. They had a decent amount of chemistry, I thought. It's a good little banter, and then it all went to shit.
it. And then they lost trust in each other. But
It's nice.
but yeah, I think that's about really it for Spec Ops. Do you want to close this out? Do it then. Do it.
All right,
you
before
coward.
before we end this episode of the Media Cocktail Podcast, we have a tradition where we go around, the three of us, and ask which piece of media we're going to go over the next podcast. This one is going to be a little bit longer, I think, than just traditional next week's do. We'll talk about it next week. So we'll probably talk about the week after next week. So the following Monday, over episode 3, following episode 3. So I'm going to do something a little interesting here. I'm throwing you guys a curveball. This isn't in the docket because I didn't have a plan for how to do a TV show. So we're going to do this. Michael, what is your selection for episode 4 of the Media Cocktail Podcast?
For episode 4, my pick, and I know I will give a preface for this, but it's actually a show that is extremely dear to me. It is might be a surprise to Brendan that this is actually my second favorite show of all time.
Okay.
And that show is a Japanese anime called Death Parade. It is.
It's actually been. Go ahead. Sorry.
It is a show. Let me actually get some information by Madhouse. Actually,
Ooh.
It is 12 episodes long. Each episode being about 25 minutes. And it is. I thought it might be interesting to do like a little plot description for the viewers at home in case they might be interested.
All right.
But I wasn't know how you felt about it. Brendan and Will.
It's actually something that was on my list to get to. I'm actually kind of glad that you, upon reflection, that you've opened it up to anime, because I have an anime that I really want you guys to watch that I think would be another interesting conversation. Because it's something that starts off...
Oh, awesome.
It's something that starts off really high and ends really low, and I think it's really interesting to talk about. But we'll get there when we get there.
So, Death
Parade.
Parade.
Yes. I won't do the plot. I won't talk about the plot because
Right.
I want it to be revealed, from the actual show.
Right.
But it is. But yeah, Death Parade is as I said before, is my second favorite show. It was also licensed by Funimation.
Right.
And yeah, I really, really mesh super hard with this show. The only show that I could say is above it, and it's kind of weird compared to my taste, is the show Gintama, which I will never have on I will never have on here because it's just way too goddamn long.
Yeah. That would take us a month.
But we gotta finish One Piece.
Okay.
It's legitimately 400 episodes.
So for episode 4, finish Death Parade to avoid spoilers. Or, if you don't care, just listen to us talk about it anyway. But because of the length of the TV show, in order to fit it in our time period that we have currently, we're recording this podcast on Monday, February 8th, and we're having 2 episodes out this week. Went out 2 out this week, and then one Monday. Then we'll be back on schedule. We have to fill it up with something else. And so, since it would be me again, I'm just going to go ahead and pick something that is relatively short, and you can get through it in about an afternoon. It's the album by Father John Misty, Pure Comedy. You can find it on YouTube, readily available anywhere. It's about 45 minutes long. It's a really interesting album. It's my 5th favorite album of all time. So I'm really interested in what you guys think of it. So if you're interested in avoiding spoilers, I guess, for Father John Misty's Pure Comedy, listen to that before episode 3 of the podcast, which we're going to record Friday. We'll see if we make it that far. Knock on wood. All right, thank you for listening to episode 2 of the Media Cocktail Podcast. This is a long one. My goodness.
This is I think it was just because we spent so much time talking about what we've been doing through the week that it's been so long.
Yeah.
Also, we kind of.
No, yeah.
Well, also, I think we kind of got a little bit sidetracked. We did get a little bit sidetracked. Whether it made it into the podcast or not, only Brendan will know.
All right, so guys. Yeah, thanks for listening.
See
guys.
you later, guys.
All right, see you Friday.
Have a lovely evening, everyone.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.